All right, so I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Upper Canada District School Board for May 14th, 2014 to order, and ask that you all rise and join in the singing of our national anthem. All right, thanks everyone. Director, proceed with roll call.
Trustee Buckland. Present. Trustee Cartman.
Present.
Trustee Garrow. Present. Trustee McPherson regrets he's attending his daughter's school concert. Trustee McAllister.
Present.
Vice Chair McDonald.
Present.
Vice Chair McMillan.
Present.
Trustee McCray.
Present.
Chair Petersma.
Present.
Trustee Richards.
Present.
Trustee Swan on teleconference.
Present.
And Student Trustee Tyler Harper.
Present.
Okay, move on to our first item, which is our consent agenda items. Could I have a motion to approve? Trustee Karkner and Richards. Drop down one. Go down one. Yes. Karkner. Oops. And Richards. Okay, I'm in favor. I haven't logged in yet.
Did the vote come up?
I'm in favor, but I just misplaced my computer.
Too bad, eh? Go ahead. Okay, that passes. Move on now to any declarations of conflict of interest. Okay, I need a motion to move into committee of the whole. Trustee McMillan. And McAllister. I'm in favor. Okay, all right, we come now to one of our regular presentations from our schools and ask Superintendent Val Allen to introduce our first presenters.
Thank you, Chair. In March, some of my colleagues and I had the opportunity to visit and spend a couple days at Athens District High School, a small rural school just north of Brockville, and we had lots of opportunity to interact with the students and the staff there. And I now welcome Principal Marcia McNair and Vice Principal Dave Peer to come and join us at the table. They'll be doing a presentation. They've got some guests with them that they'll describe, and we can tell you know the love that they have for their school when someone comes and spends her birthday to present her school audit. So happy birthday to Marsha McNair, and we're looking forward to your presentation.
Thanks,
The director said that, I won't say what he said.
You said you look 29 today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Val. I did want to introduce the people that I brought with me. A member of our parent council, Kate Baker, one of my senior students, Sarah Baker, another senior student, Caitlin Walker, and one of our intermediate students, Katie Ross, and one of our staff members, Linda Ross. So thank you to some people from our Athens family for joining us tonight. First of all, personally, I'm really excited to showcase Athens District High School. I have a sincere commitment to our school and our community as a former student at Athens and a lifelong resident in the village. So we are the hometown school. We truly put students first. We have very strong ties with our community, and I think this is evident each year at commencement through the numerous awards and bursaries that our community sponsors on behalf of our students. The motto at Athens is a small school with endless possibilities, and this is also very true. We have certainly a family-like feel, and the power small speaks to the success of our school. A little bit about life at Athens. We are a rural grade 7 to 12 community school. We have a 5-period day. The 5th period is a multi-subject instructional period. So we have a fixed period where high school students from grades 9 to 12 have an opportunity to receive some extra support and work on assignments in different course areas. We are part of the Athens family of schools with Pineview and Meadowview. We have 72 grade 7 and 8 students, 165 grade 9 to 12 students, 10 of which are our ELL learners, our English language learners. 17 teaching staff are present, 11 support staff. We offer both core and extended French. We have a specialist high skills major at our school in the area of the environment, and it is extremely successful at our school through our board and provincially, and I really feel that is due to the package programming that we offer in that area, where students take the course all semester long and receive 4 credits by being involved in that specific program. 29% of the students at Athens have some special needs that we attend to daily. The admin team is made up of myself. I've been a principal there for a year and a half, and my vice principal, Dave Peer. There's tons of rural pride in our school. The Small School Summit actually originated in the library, a conversation, I believe, with the director and a group of people from the school and the board a few years back. We are very proud of the communication that we started to address with our community so they can be well informed. We have a Facebook page now, and it really is the face of our school, and we receive a lot of feedback from parents. Responses that they check it regularly and like to know about life at Athens. So student voice is very critical in every school, and it's certainly very powerful at Athens. We have a strong student leadership. Our student leadership is run through our parliament system, and Parliament was established in 1947 and is still going very strong in Athens. We have 11 ministries now and include our grade 7 and 8 students. So, and a couple of the ladies I brought with me are looking to run to be our Prime Minister next year. So this is a great leadership opportunity for them to see how a leadership table works. I spoke a little bit about our specialist high schools major. The picture up there is part of our maple syrup activities that we have that the program runs at the school. It really meets the needs of our population and the rural interests. It's such a vibrant program and has offered us opportunities to partner with many community groups through our co-op placement and other community partners such as the Garden Club and Limerick Forest. The quote of the little information at the bottom. 91% of our grade 7 to 9 students recently have told us on Tell Them From Me survey that we run with all students in the school, grade 7 to 12, that they feel very safe at Athens. So we're very proud of that statistic.
In terms of student life, it's been a busy year for the students at Athens. In spite of its size, Athens offers a full range of teams from grades 7 to 12. The senior girls volleyball team won the GOSA this year, and they're pictured at the upper left celebrating with their medals, first time in 15 years, very proud of them. We have also had students move on to Eastern Ontario competition in wrestling and badminton. This year, we hosted our first 7 to 12 coffee house. A coffee house is an arts night. It usually involves a play followed by some singing acts, some dancing acts, and oftentimes a visual arts display as well. In fact, pictured there in the upper right is Sarah Baker, who's with us tonight. And I'm going to shamelessly plug the fact that she has a single available on iTunes if you care to look her up on your laptops there. It was very successful. They're often very successful. We packed the gym with them. Our next one is going to be on May 29th, so we're ramping up for that now. Something that was really nice about the last coffee house was that the students took the proceeds from the door and were given the range of possibilities what to do with it, and they decided to donate the funds to Champions for Kids. Additionally, we have many opportunities for 7 to 12 clubs and parliament activities due to the implementation of an overlapping time during lunch this year. We also run a successful and well-received link and web program, and you can see in the quote on the bottom there that anecdotally the students are very happy with it. That's from our most recent Tell Them From Me survey.
The grad rate, we call it the Athens journey. We're very proud to be embarking on 90%. We presently sit around 86% in a 4-year cohort, but we predict that we will be at 91% this year. We are able to accurately, I feel, predict our grad rate because of the power of small, and we can drill down and look individually at each student. And we're excited to be able to work back with some of our feeder schools and continue to look at these students and target them as early on as we possibly can to put the supports in place to ensure that they meet success. And if in looking at these numbers a little bit closer, we might be right around the 90% now if we look over the 5-year, because we have a few students that will graduate with us this year in their 5th year at Athens. So we're really proud of that rate.
Related to the power of small, in terms of student success, we're able to track our Michelangelo kids with granular detail. A Michelangelo kid is someone we need to help get back on track. They represent the idea that there is a beautiful sculpture in the uncarved marble that will emerge with our support, and we're always looking for the best in the kids we serve. Our size allows us to be proactive about their success. We're able to conference regularly with them and about them, and provide custom support and program guidance. This year, we have implemented a pre-built student timetable, which will better allow us to plan pathways and course offerings for everyone at the school. An indicator of this success is that our current 16 by 16 data is 39 out of 42, meaning that 39 of the current 16-year-olds at the school have achieved those crucial 16 credits. The literacy test story at Athens is one of challenge and opportunity. It's important to know that at Athens, because of our size, statistics can be a little bit misleading. In the chart that you're looking at there on the screen, one student represents 2% variation in score. Last year, we were faced with a number of challenges. In terms of the literacy test, we had a high number of students score at 295, the pass is 300, and we also have a higher per capita number of international students who are writing the test. These challenges have become opportunities in that we have developed an action plan where we focus on targeted interventions. To that end, a literacy team was formed, which included Marcia and I, and we unpacked the literacy test and worked in small groups on areas of specific need. This year, the intermediate students wrote a mock test, and we're in the process of calculating the data and formulating a plan to provide a continuum of support. Finally, as a staff, we worked through the inquiry process where small groups of teachers visited each other's classrooms to make observations in regards to student learning and literacy. And we're currently in the process of reporting back our findings through staff meetings.
In terms of EQAO math, our charts for both academic and applied show a similar number of students at level 2. In order to address this concern, we have started grade 7 and 8 math groups. So we have students participate in math groups at their level and at their grade for 60 minutes each day. And these groups have allowed the teachers to be able to focus more on the skills the students are needing. And as well, allows us to have the conversations if we need to move students back and forth from groups. And in certain instances, we have for various reasons. And we have regular consultation during our student success meetings regularly to discuss if we're going to move students back and forth, as well as contact with parents. We're also very fortunate at Athens that we offer instrumental music, and it's taught by one of our secondary teachers. So when the secondary teacher is teaching instrumental music to our grade 7 and 8s, our grade 7, 8 teachers, who are also all qualified with special education, work with students in grade 9 or 10 in small groups or individually to provide support. We did this in preparation for OSSLT, and we're doing it again right now and have been for a while now to help our grade 9s prepare for the upcoming EQAO test.
Moving forward, with data as a guide, we created school success plan goals as a staff. As an admin team, we engaged the staff in reviewing the school success plan goals by creating individualized statements of commitment. Additionally, we have gathered feedback from the Parent Council on how well they understand and value our school success plan goals. Brianne Morrison sent a thank you card to the staff at the end of last semester. She wrote, "Dear staff of Athens District High School, thank you for everything throughout the past 4.5 years. Whether you're a teacher, a coach, a guidance counselor, or a secretary, I thank you all equally for contributing to the school's great atmosphere and making my years here so great. I especially enjoyed the unique events and traditions, as well as the sports, that have been kept going by you, the dedicated staff. If I could do it all over again, I would. I've learned so much here that I am happy to say that I feel as comfortable as possible going out and facing post-secondary education and life as a whole." That's customer service, my friends. It's especially gratifying in that Brianne was not the head of parliament, nor was she, captain of the volleyball team. She was a typical Athens kid. I would like to draw your attention to the staff comment at the bottom right, which is from the most recent school culture scan. And I don't think Marcia and I could encapsulate it better. I think it says very clearly that idea of the power of small and the power of community at Athens District High School.
So moving forward, we have lots of opportunities in front of us and some next steps that we plan to embark. One area that we want to focus on is that transition from grade 8 to grade 9, and so that we ensure we are building skills in literacy and numeracy. This year we created an electronic at-risk referral form for grade 7 to 12 so that teachers can access this form, and we can meet regularly during our student success team meetings and address some of the student needs so we can raise the bar for some students and close the gap for others as needed. We want to engage our community more and build a profile of the school, and we're very fortunate. We have a small group on our parent council, but they're very active and engaged in life at Athens. We had a very successful first ever Ladies Night fundraiser at the school, and we just concluded our participation or our role in the annual Mind, Body, and Soul event, which is where the Athens Family Schools all come together through the program, and we put on a community event for the families. We are getting ready to implement our parent survey. We've been working on that for a bulk of the school year, and we've just about nailed it down what we want to share at some upcoming events and get some community feedback. And thirdly, it's really important that we continue to provide pathways for all of our students. We have many that go off to college, the workplace, and university, and some as well into the trades. We're really thrilled. We just recently received news that we are now going to be able to offer a second specialist high skills major this September, in September 2014. And we have 2 staff members right now that are en route to Toronto to receive the training tomorrow, so they can bring it back and we can get working on this. And it's going to be a justice, community safety, and emergency services. And what I understand, it'll be the first specialist high skills major of this area in our board. So we're really excited about that. And through creative programming, it's going to continue to allow us to provide the students with the further opportunities to gain knowledge and skills for post-secondary and life. In terms of staff wellness and student wellness is always a focus at Athens, and we did have a member of the Athens Family Health Team come and speak to staff recently to share some information. And we also had Dr. Darcy Santer from University of Ottawa and the Youth Mental Health at CHEO speak to our grade 7-8 students and provide them with some strategies for coping with stress and positive thinking. In conclusion, Athens is a great place to learn and have fun each day. We recently had a heritage sign placed out front of the school to celebrate the rich tradition of education at Athens, and we look forward to building on the traditions and embracing the future in a progressive manner, where we always keep the main thing, and the main thing to us is students first. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions? Trustee McMillan?
Through you, Chair. Thank you, Marsh and David, for that. I noticed on all the slides that you have small school and responsibilities, and you've made it very clear that by being small, it gives you the ability to look at the students much more closely and be able to meet their individual needs. Does being small also provide or create a problem in terms of course selection and offering courses to students as they work their way through their high school education because of the limited number of options? And if so, what are you doing to address that?
Through you, Chair. I don't think I just think it provides us more opportunities for us to be more creative than we've ever been before and continue on that path to provide lots of course offerings. And we do have a variety of pathways that students can take. We've certainly looked at we have senior math blocks, and next year we're looking to have even a science math block, so we can combine a lot of courses into one math period to allow students that opportunity to get whatever course selection they need. So there's many courses that we do offer and that we continue to offer, and we always have offered at Athens. And we do hear that comment a lot, and I love to challenge people back because I like to know what it is that they want that we don't have, because I think there's lots of routes and pathways at Athens for our students. We graduate many every year into college, university, and the trades.
Thank you.
Trustee McAllister?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Marcia and David, for your excellent presentation. And needless to say, I'm quite proud of Athens District High School. I wanted to preface my question by telling you that last night we, at the Audit Committee, had a presentation from KPMG, and the chief, or the lead auditor was a chap by the name of Andrew Newman, who spoke very highly of Athens District High School as a former graduate. I guess I want to pursue Trustee McMillan's questioning, or his line of questioning with regard to creative programming. I'm wondering if you could comment a little bit more on that. And I noticed it's one of your steps under opportunities and next steps. What exactly do you mean by creative opportunity or creative programming? And if you had a crystal ball and a wish list, what would you want on it in terms of programming and creative?
Well, sorry, through you, Chair. I think that the new schism is going to allow us to provide some more creative programming at the school, because there are some courses, in order for our students to receive that red seal, that we will need to find ways to provide in the school, or we always are looking to expand our online learning, and we do have regular conversation with Superintendent Coombs in order to look to expand our online learning world. So I think we do lots of some package programs at Athens. In the past, we've had 2 package music and business programs, arts and manufacturing, 2 credit programs. So it's when we are small and we can line up classes back to back with each other, sometimes we can offer package programming, which is enticing to kids that may be thinking of going into certain areas.
Supplementary?
Go ahead.
Could you explain the math period that you were referring to earlier? Whereby all the subjects, all the math is taught in one period? Is that what you were saying?
Through you, Chair, in grade 7, 8, we have math groupings.
Okay.
And so then for 60 minutes every day, all the grade 7, 8s are placed into different groups based on their present abilities with whatever strands of math were being taught at the time. And those groups, we have moved students in and out of groups depending on their needs throughout the year. So there's the math groupings, and then in secondary, in 9 to 12, we have our multi-subject instructional periods, or a 5th period, that students can receive extra math support or literacy support or science support, or they may be down in one of the shops working on something, a project, as well during that time.
Thank you, Marcia.
Any other comments? Okay, well, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll ask Superintendent Val Allen to introduce our next school.
It was a pleasure with Superintendent Victoria Hemming and Superintendent Susan Edwards to spend a couple days at Glengarry District High School. Glengarry is located in the northeast, well, not the very north, but the northern part.
Right in the corner over there.
That's right. Very bilingual community, and we got the true Scottish flavor, but also a flavor of student engagement and staff enthusiasm at that school that I know you'll hear come through Principal Guy LaMarche's presentation. So I'll turn it over to Principal LaMarche.
Our point of being put on. I'd like to thank you all personally. Really enjoyed the process. From having the teams come in the building, the students told me how much they appreciated to have a voice and to talk to them and express how they feel about their school. Strat Council was a great experience. Sometimes you think you know everything, and then you find out you don't know much. So that was a really good humbling experience because you come out with a certain way of doing things, and I appreciated the feedback tremendously. And I'm hoping, even though I'm a little nervous, that this experience will also be a good one.
Seems to be starting with real promise.
Yeah.
Talk about Athens for a little bit more.
Well, we can combine that. We have tractors in our area too.
John Deere, though, near here. Won't go away.
Controls aren't working on the laptop, so bear with us. They were working earlier today.
Oh, is that Alexander's board?
Ford makes tractors.
Nope.
Okay, well, do you need your slides?
I can do all of
You move on. We have the slides in front of us.
Yeah.
So they're part of the agenda package should anybody want to look at them.
I'll go on to basically the current state. So you have the slides in front of you. We have 360 students from grade 7 to 12. 1/3 of our students come from coterminous board, which is an interesting fact. 84% grad rate. Now, we're close to 90 because we have a system designated class, and 2 or 3 of those children will not get a diploma per se, but may get a certificate of accomplishment. We are maintaining course offerings and unique programs despite our size. We offer an holistic approach to school involvement. What I really like about the school is that it's not just about the arts, the sports. It's not about the academics only. We even have a risk club because someone wanted to know if they could have one. And I think we were trying to find a way to latch everybody on and get involved in the school. Once they feel like they have that little catch thing in the school, then they'll probably do better at school. We are a true community school. A lot of the staff members went to Glengarry. Their children are now attending Glengarry. Community people come in freely. We have great partnerships, and it is an open door policy. ESP, and some of you are wondering what ESP is, and I was going to wait to a later slide, but I'll explain it now. A few years back, Ted Kennedy brought a team of us to Toronto for a Safe School Conference. What an experience. We went to visit a Toronto school, and we started the trip by looking at the outside of the school, and it was full of graffiti. The principal was telling us that every night they had to clear the park from syringes. That's the type of school we were visiting. When you stepped in the building, it was unbelievable. It was clean, there was a great atmosphere, and he talked about the student empowerment partnership. So we said, what is that? They had a team of 60 students who basically took care of the safety of the school. They had 14 community officers. That's what was the neighborhood. And they would work with the police officers. They were in charge of making sure there was a safe school, and it was a really good experience. So I brought it back to St. Lawrence, and I had it at Seaway. And now at Glengarry, I'm very fortunate to have Rebecca Mackay, who's taken it on as a project, and it's been wonderful. And it's really been the one reason I think that we've made such gains in terms of a safe and positive environment, because the students take ownership for their school. So the next slides I won't go to. I'll go to the feedback part, because I like to show the graphs and the pictures after. I'm visual, so it's probably the 4th page. Feedback. I don't know how you can run a school without getting feedback. So we have several sources. One is Tell Them From Me, and if you're not sure what that is, it's a student survey. So every year we do the survey. We share the results with staff, with students, and school council. If you don't do anything with the data is not worth anything. We also have assemblies with the students. We tell them, this is what your grade is telling us. This is what you're telling us. The information really guides our planning. And as well as we do track cohorts. So if you're in grade 7, we will check your data all the way through to see, how's it going? Are we doing a good job? Are you changing? You had anxiety in grade 7. Is that still prevalent or not? So it's very important that way. The second thing is we track by grades. There seems to be certain themes in each grade. So in grade 10 seems to be a year, and I remember my own high school experience where there's a lull. The excitement of grade 9 is gone. Okay, you're not seeing the finish line, and you kind of go into a little funk. And the data was showing that. So what can we do to try and improve on those things? Staff's culture scan. I love the culture scan. Twice a year religiously for the last 10 years. We've had a new question, so we've tracked it for 3 years. And what it does, it tells us how is the staff feeling about the school. It's anonymous, and they're pretty honest and open about it. And you'll know that, you may be selling something, you may think that things are going really well, all of a sudden you see blip. The staff is having difficulty collaborating. That's an example. But those are things that you need to know and address through staff meetings in PD. So we try and really track the info to find out where the trends and the hotspots are. Parent feedback, absolutely an open door policy. When the parent comes in, it's not just enough to listen, you need to act on it. And I think the parents may not always like the answer after, but they know that we do follow up and we try and really work with them. And the funny thing is, after year 1, there's more and more parents that come in, but they're not just coming in to say, this is wrong. They're saying, we really appreciate the opportunity. We like what you're doing with the school, like the course offerings, so it's been very positive that way. The audit, as I mentioned already, it's been very beneficial. Just to let you know, and Val can attest to that, we did not pick all the most positive people that would say, Glengarry is the best school in the world. We had a very diverse group. And it was fun because you want to hear what they have to say because they don't always have that opportunity. Maybe they're skipping out, they're in the smoking area, but I do visit every day, so I know what they're talking about. So it's important to know how all the stakeholders feel. So I guess I'll move on. If you have the pictures already, so on the first page. We'll talk about the pictures, so it's important. I know as part of the process, you wanted to know what makes Glengarry unique. What's so special about Glengarry? What are we proud of? So the top left picture is a soccer team. Glengarry is known for soccer. I've been trying to change that and make them a basketball school when I'm having a tough time. So The interesting part is you can see in that picture the two trends. Number one, it's a very Scottish-oriented school, so they've got their kilts. This picture was taken in Windsor. They won the silver medal at OFSA, and that may seem like for them it's almost an annual ritual because we do very well at OFSA, but also it showed that we do have an excellent sports program. Tremendous athletes. I don't know if it's the caber tossing or what it is for the Maxville Games, but they are tremendous athletes. Bottom left corner, that is the St. Andrew's Day. Art knows what I'm talking about. So although there are other schools that do celebrate, nobody does it to the magnitude of Glengarry, and I can honestly say that. My first experience 10 years ago as a VP, I walked in the gym and I said, what is this? The light shows, the pipers, the fiddlers, and the senior lady who was retiring grabbed me by the arm and said, you're going to learn how to two-step if you're going to make it here, boy. And there I was dancing around. I don't think my feet ever touched the ground, but it was very interesting. And then I learned to appreciate that culture, which is really prevalent, not just in the school, but the community. Fantastic. Every year we have a day dedicated to this. And the talent level is unbelievable. We have a cellist who's a national level cellist, and he made the cello sound really cool. So I didn't know you could do that, but he did. I hope there's nobody playing cello over here. But the middle picture I'm very proud of, and that's Jeff Manley, who is our intermediate music teacher. He's going to do it again this year. He did it 2 years ago. He has every single 7 and 8 student participate in a mass band and present to the parents. We're not talking triangles and little rub sticks here. It is saxophones and trombones and drums, and every single student participates. It's an amazing event. May 28th is the next time he's doing it. Top right corner, very proud also, and I have nothing to take credit for this because it's Mrs. Rebecca Mackay again. There's a lot of character in the building, and fundraising is a big thing. We try to dedicate ourselves to one major one a year, because you know what happens when you have 10 of them? None of them are done well. So we focus on one major one and several other things we do, but Inside Ride is the one we do every year. If anybody's ever been involved in Inside Ride, it's a spectacular event. It's for children's cancer. What you do is you have teams of 6 drivers, 10 minutes each on a stationary bike, and there's awards for most mileage, and it gets very competitive, of course. And you wear costumes, and we've raised $40,000 the last 4 years for children's cancer. And the bottom right picture is another thing we're very proud of. Canadian mental health, as you all know, and it's been coming across in all provinces and the ministry as well, the issues of student mental health. The data from Tell Them From Me, the data from the Eastern Ontario Health Unit has shown that our area has a history or a tendency for depression and anxiety. If you don't do anything about it, it won't change. So we made a really strong partnership with Canadian Mental Health. They're in our building a lot. We have guest speakers. We have several staff members trained in ASSIST, which is really important. And what's happening is that Canadian Mental Health has given us the award last year. They give it once, never given it to a high school before, but they decided to give their chapter award to Glengarry, and we're very proud of that. So, to the OSLT E2AO graphic, it's hard to describe it unless you have it in front of you. It's the third page, and it shows you there's almost a tale of 2 cities. When it comes to literacy, I think we're right on top of the game. Now that may change, a cohort may come in that's weaker and we have to adjust to that. But if you look at the trends, we were the top school on the board in Eastern Ontario 3 years ago. We continue to be at the top. We have a dedicated program that works very well, and we're very proud of that. Flip the other side of the coin, grade 9 EQ math applied. Now there's a tendency across the province and the board that it's lower, but ours are even lower than the board and the province, and that's an area of concern. We're not exactly sure why at this point, but we need to investigate, and that's one of our next steps. It could be that we get a lot of students from other boards in grade 9 and we don't know them, and they're doing the test in grade 9. There's not much of a time frame there to get to know their strengths and assessments, because we don't always get that information when it's from coterminous boards. The other thing too is we have to look at ourselves, because in grade 6, some of the students that failed in grade 9 passed in grade 6. What happened in grade 7 and 8? We have to take a realistic look at what are we doing, can we improve in that area? There's this little diagram, the culture scan. It is page 5. I don't know if you have to by page, but it is, you don't have to worry about what's on the graphs. It goes to show you when we get information, it's important to graph and keep a track of it over years, because you see those little lines and the squibbles. What we try and achieve on a culture scan is level 3-4 across. That tells us that we're moving in the right direction. 1 means we're stuck. 2, you're getting a bit better, but 3 and 4 you want to be, and that's the ideal situation. By tracking it, I can tell the staff, okay, we were going really well and something happened. Why is there a blip there? This is your information, what happened? So it's really important that we keep on top of that because it does guide our strategic plan. Where we want to be. We want to provide responsive classroom environments. And what does that mean? It means they have to be safe. Children can't hide in classrooms. You need to hit every corner. You need to make sure they're actively learning and they're critically thinking. Okay, we did a lot of work with the hubs on making thinking visible, and the staff was very surprised. One staff member, we asked, how do you know kids are thinking? And one person actually said, well, they're listening and they're obedient. They could just be sitting there thinking about something else. You don't know. You have to make sure that they're actually active and thinking. And also is how you ask questions, making sure that you have safety in your classroom. You set up a kid to fail, he'll never answer again in a class. So we do a lot of work in that area. We want to improve student achievement in applied math, obviously. I won't say all of them, but service excellence, we really push it because it's important, especially being a community school. We do want to enhance our French and science programs because that's something that's come through the feedback from parents. And we need to sustain and improve a culture of learning and accountability for students and staff. Staff are always ready, and they're right, that we need to really focus on making kids a commitment to learning and accountable, but we have that same commitment for ourselves as well. And they know that. If you're absent a lot of times because you're coaching, you're doing a great job coaching, but it's your responsibility to make sure the kids have not gone down because you're not there. Because when we expect students to catch up when they're missing for sports, we're also accountable to make sure that everything's okay in the classroom. And the last one on that page would be we want an environment of trust and ownership. If you want people to follow you, you want people to be a part of something special, they have to trust you and they got to believe in what you're working for. They need to take that ownership. The 3 goals, just quickly, assessment, wellness, and special education differentiation. From all this information are the areas for now that we're taking on. The board school success plan talks about establishing 3 main goals. Those are our 3 main goals. It's too bad I can't put this in my nice little diagram. And you've got it? Because this one's special. And we're hard at this one. And David, to start the precursor, how do you know? You've got this story, you've got all these ideas, and you think that everybody's paying attention, but how do we know that the staff is ready to learn? You have to be honest and you have to be realistic that they're ready to make that shift. So David had a quadrant he presented earlier in the year, and there was 2 facets, relational excellence and teaching efficacy, which I know the board has been involved with as well as a focus. So now there's 4 quadrants. Top left quadrant is where you want to be. You're strong in both areas. You know, we're getting there. There you go.
We're doing our best to help you.
Oh, it's okay.
Dave done a really good job.
I shouldn't have worn the suit coat though. So, if you look, there it is. There's my baby. So the quadrant, and it talks about the top left quadrant is where you want to be. The bottom right, you don't want to be in it. And I have to be honest with both. I think it's pretty accurate. If you look at the light blue, that's a contour of all the responses. I asked staff anonymously to plot themselves on this quadrant. The darker blue are those dense areas where the staff put themselves. Now, there are people that are in that top left quadrant, and I believe that they are. We have some excellent teachers in the building that get it in terms of relationship, kids, and also good teaching practice. There should be a few in the bottom right corner, but they're maybe not. They don't know necessarily they need to work on things, but that's going to be, in most schools. The interesting part of that is the top right corner. A large majority feel they connect to kids, and I believe that. We have a very caring staff. When it comes to the mental health piece, to stay on top of the kids, it's their community. They feel it's important to school. They know the families. They really do a good job on that. But they're also aware that they still need to improve in teacher efficacy, which is what you want. Status quo is not a good thing. At the bottom, how do I know? The culture scan. Instructional leadership. 90% of them feel they have a co-learning relationship with me. Okay? And it didn't start at 90%. 4 years ago, it's probably at 70, 65%. I'm going to be honest about that. So 90% of them at level 3 or 4 feel they can talk to me about instructional leadership. On average, 90% of them feel they need to increase their assessment repertoire. That's a big positive. If it was 10%, I'd be very worried. There's an environment of trust and ownership. 96% of them, the staff, responded that at level 3 or 4, they feel they trust us and they have ownership in improvement. That's very positive. Hope I do this right. Yeah, go to the next one. I'm having problems again. So potential challenges. Declining enrollment, we have 1 feeder school. We share one kind of in Maxville, but we have one feeder school. So we need to take care of that feeder school, but we also need to offer a good product and service excellence. Communication, a lot, again, 1/3 of students come from other boards. Information from coterminous boards is not always easy to get. We do have good partnerships, but we don't always get the necessary information. Integrating personal philosophies, that's in any business. There are people that believe that every high school class, especially senior class, should be taught like a university. Okay, there are people that believe that the most important thing is we care about all of them, but they forget about the teaching efficacy and having high standards. So there's a balance there, and that's the job, is to merge a common philosophy that everybody's going to buy into. Staying open to new exciting opportunities and maintaining the same level of unique programs and course offerings. I think we've met that challenge, but it's always going to be there as a potential challenge that we need to be aware of. And finally, the last page is steps and recommendations. From all that information, from the audit, from the school culture scan, tell them from me, what do we know? Literacy hubs, whether they stay in the same format or not, that opportunity to really investigate and collaborate is important and needs to be a focus for our school. The math focus, obviously, as you saw from the data, is something we're going to tackle right from the get-go. Staff wellness, when we mean staff wellness, doesn't mean everybody's not well. It just means we have to make sure that the relationships are solid and that people want to collaborate together. And finally, the PLCs, they're there, but we need to focus more on student work and a bit more on data to make them even more efficient. Thank you.
Despite the challenges, I've had information that David Thomas was playing with the podium computer.
Yeah, the wizard was at it.
Wrecked the keyboard, apparently. Where was that second cup of coffee? So, any comments, trustees? Trustee Kirkner.
Thank you, Principal. Through you, Chair, I'd like to follow up on the feedback page that you presented to us. You talk about having entry surveys. Those are the students in grade 7 that are coming into your school. Have you ever thought of trying an exit survey for your grade 12s? We've talked about this during the accountability framework, and it's something that we feel would be important to follow through with the graduates and what happens. There are difficulties, but I'll let you answer if you've tried.
Through you, Chair, we've actually found a lot of different things. So the entry survey is not just for grade 7s, they're for grade 9s. Even though they're in our building in grade 8 to grade 9, there's a big shift. They go from having a common teacher to 4 separate teachers. And the link's really been helpful with that, but we try to make sure that they feel like, have they connected to an adult? So that's a question on the survey. And the staff helped us make the survey. Critical things, are you enjoying your classes? Are you enjoying your teachers? So that's been very helpful. The one you talked about as well is not just for the grade 12s, but we do informal surveys with students that decide to leave the building. Whether they're going to another school, I want to know why. Is it something we could have improved on? What is the reason? Also, students that come in the building that are new, we link up with them every so often to find out how are they doing. So there's informal surveys, there's formal surveys. To take it a notch higher about the graduates, Tell Them For Me is a way of knowing. Tell Them For Me, we have grade 12 classes, and they will tell you, by then they've done it 4 times, it's boom, it's straight to the point, and when they do comments at the end, because we have specific questions on Tell Them For Me you can do, then they're really straight about it. The second thing I've always thought is having surveys for the students that are currently at university and find out how is it going for them? How do we prepare them? And one of the things we're finding out, it's really helped with the small schools, and I want to mention that. When parents come up to me and say, oh, well, my son's taking an online course, or then they find out from other kids that are gone that at university, they're doing a lot of online work. So what we like to say is better to be prepared now and have that experience than having your first experience at university. And they understand that.
Trustee Buckland?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Of course, we're very proud of this school, and you can see how flexible and resourceful the principal is when his favorite AB did not work. We're also seeing more community involved there, and we thank Superintendent Hobbs and the principal for for pioneering that and championing it as well. We have the archival set up there now, and so the community is more involved in it. I want to hope that our principal will continue to be with us. He's in the paper almost every week as the champion coach of winning basketball teams. The NBA may be calling. I want to talk about the program. Now, we have 7 to 12, so you're able to follow those in terms of what we want to see an increased efficacy in math. But as you mentioned, we're getting students coming in at grade 9. Now, is there anything special you're doing there, or are there some things we can capture from schools like CC, where students are coming in at grade 9 that could be helpful in giving greater achievement for these students? Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I'm glad you asked that question. Link has been a very positive experience, and it's what really helped us with the grade 9s. Because 3 years ago, when we got kids in grade 9, it was a bit more informal, but the mentorship was not of any close to the quality of what it is now with Link. So that is probably the best line of defense that we have for students coming from other boards in grade 9. It's been very helpful. The other thing too is in grade 7, we're having web now. So web's another one. So as far as students coming in and making sure they're academically doing well, Link and web have really taken care of those issues that we've had in the past.
Trustee McAllister?
Thank you, Dee, for a good presentation. I want to congratulate you for being in tune with the mental health needs of your students and your community and that focus. But I want to look at the slide entitled Where We Want to Be, and you list there 7 areas. I'm certainly not going to ask you to go through each one, but if you could pick one, could you explain how you are getting to where you want to be?
Go ahead.
Through you, Chair, I would think I'll tackle the tough one, the applied math. So what we're going to do now, we have opportunities. We have some more hub time this year that we're able to do in-house, and we're going to meet as a staff to discuss what they're seeing as on the test in their classes, the deficiencies. From that, we'll have a meeting with the 7 to 10 teachers in math. Where is the lapse in between? Now the problem is that work's been done a long time ago, but it was lost. Nobody ever took ownership of the data, and I'm being honest. So when I came in as principal, someone told me about, oh yeah, 5 years ago we did that. Well, you did it, you did nothing with it. It's important that we're going to take the information and go from there. We need to take, there's a lot of data on EQAO right now that really is insightful. That's why we knew that some of the students that were successful in grade 6 were not in grade 9. That's going to help us. What I'm excited about as well is that with the new families, the 10 families, we have 3 other resources within our grouping that we'll be able to compare and share and find out are there things that they're doing that would benefit us as well. So those are opportunities I think that will help the specific problems. I think we need to be more creative. Our literacy plan is very extensive. Why can't we mimic that with the math? Why can't we have a block every day where we focus on math, not just literacy? You know, I think we need to offer the after-school numeracy as well. We do the literacy, but not the numeracy. So we're going to investigate those opportunities. That's what we're going to do.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry that our technology let you down.
I'm not surprised it was.
We will. We'll get to the bottom of it.
That's all good.
Director?
Our apologies for that. I did not spill coffee over it. Well, it was not putting to work. But may I compliment you on going through that without it bothering you or appearing to bother you at all. It was very professional how you handled that. Very difficult situation. Thank you.
Okay, move on now to our next item, which is an annual update on our wellness and work-life balance initiative, and ask Superintendent Charlotte Patterson to introduce this.
Thank you very much, Chair Petersma. It is my pleasure to introduce Penny Raby. Penny is our compensation and wellness specialist, and for the past few years, Penny has been closely associated with the Wellness and Work-Life Balance Charter. And most recently, since the retirement of Linda Billing, has taken the lead and championed this charter throughout the board. When Penny first assumed this new role, I did challenge Penny to truly champion the project, and I would have to say that she has delivered on that. And really what I was asking her to do was look beyond the project as we knew it, and to seek some partnerships in the board and the community that would move the project forward. And also to seek opportunities to drive and deepen the cultural change that we're trying to achieve through the project. And lastly, to connect with other charters in order to achieve a synergy and alignment with some of the other charters that we have in our board as well. So just in closing, I have to say that Penny has delivered on all counts, and really pleased to have her here this evening to provide you with the annual report. Penny.
Thank you, Charlotte.
You're welcome.
Through you, Chair, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be back here again this year to give an annual update on the Wellness Work-Life Balance Charter. The presentation that is currently running will just run in the background. I won't speak to it directly, but I thought it would just be interesting to see. The theme of it is with respect to making small changes and how small changes can make a big difference in our lives. And I thought what I would do is take the opportunity is to highlight specifically from the report that you've received this evening to celebrate some of our successes with the initiative. I know since the project has been in place for a number of years, here we go. Okay. It should just run automatically. Yeah. So since being here, since the project since 2007, we have really taken some great strides towards reaching some true goals. And I'd like to highlight for you, as Charlotte noted, some partnerships that we've really we'd like to celebrate this evening. So part of your package, you would have received a copy of our mobile device ergonomics brochure, which was developed in partnership with the University of Windsor, the Department of Kinesiology. And what that allows us to do is to focus on the persons who use, let's say, laptops or cell phones or tablets, and to look at reducing the risk of repetitive strain injury or perhaps sore neck or sore back with respect to sitting posture. And as we know that that's a true technology that we see even within our students, it's certainly something that would benefit not only us but our students as well. With respect to mental health, I have the opportunity to be able to introduce a new partnership with Mood Disorders of Canada, and that's a new mental health program. So currently we provide mental health works training to all of our managers and supervisors, which provide them the skills and the techniques to be able to support staff. We are now looking at a program that's going to be able to support our staff individually, so to better inform them with respect to mental health and what they can do to cope and to better support themselves. That is a partnership that will provide training for us free of cost, and it's completely optional for staff. and it's going to be able to be tailored directly for UCDSB staff. So not only will it provide general information with respect to depression, chronic pain, arthritis, anxiety, it will also tie in local support. So as employees take that training, they'll see information about our EFAP program, what's available in their community, who their local agencies are. So it'll be really directed towards supports that are within our own areas. We are currently undergoing an application process with Excellence Canada. We are applying for level 4. We've put in our application, and we're currently doing some data mining, and we're looking at our information over the last 5 years and looking at trends analysis. So our on-site visitation, we expect the team to be here on September 25th, 2014. That has been confirmed. I'd also like to highlight that I've had a real pleasure of working with our leaders with cross charters as well. So with Carol DeFore, Randy Rattan, Physical Literacy and Nutrition, we helped develop the Facebook page that is currently highlighted, and where schools are able to post pictures and initiatives that they are doing within their own school sites, as well as within the board as well as Valerie Allen with respect to the Living Well Charter. And we've certainly seen some parallels there between mental health initiatives with a focus on students as well as with staff. So that's really great. We do make a sincere effort to be very proactive in our strategies, and that is why we continue to provide mental health works training for our managers. So it's in a maintenance phase. We promote, let's say, our mental health weeks. There are quite a number of mental health initiatives or mental health promotion weeks that are throughout Canada. There's Bell Let's Talk. There's a Student Mental Health Week. There's CMHA Mental Health Week. So we continue to promote those throughout the organization. We continue to seek out available resources with outside agencies at low or no cost to the board. And we also have a really great relationship with our EFAP provider. And this year we've taken a real step into communicating the extra services and the availability of supports from EFAP to the system leadership, to our principals and vice principals, and to our admin managers. And we are starting to see that take hold. And I can provide that evidence because I know that they are contacting me as a resource for their school. So for example, we're looking to bring in a speaker on resilience. Can you help us out with that? And I can liaise them and link them with EFAP, who is already a service that we provide to our staff, and they are able to connect with them and bring in someone at no cost to their board, to their school, to speak to their staff. We've even taken on a partnership with QP local union, and I'm looking at supporting them as they're rolling out a PD day coming near the end of May, and utilizing our EFAP and also our technology system. So with the benefit of having our link system, we're actually able to provide a wellness webinar across the system on the same day in different time slots, again provided through EFAP, that is already an expert in the field, and be able to reach out to, we're hoping, close to 1,300 staff members at different points throughout the day. So certainly without the technology, we wouldn't have the ability to be able to reach out to quite a large number of people all at the same time. The ultimate goal is that we do strive towards creating a program that's going to produce a cultural change and a movement within the system. And we are looking for it to be embedded throughout the organization and evidenced in our work sites. And this year in particular, I know that I have seen evidence of that. And it's great to see, and it's great to have people tell me about it. They're proud of it, they're excited, and it's something that makes me truly happy. And that concludes the update that I have for you this evening. I'd be open to any questions.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Trustees. Trustee McCray.
Through you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Penny, for the presentation. I just wanted to ask you if is there any way that we are able to capture the co-relationship between the efforts that you are doing within this charter and things like early safe return to work or reduced absenteeism? Is there a way, I'm hearing very positive things from your program and you're sharing those with us, but in terms of data, are we able to even do that at this point yet?
Go ahead.
Okay, so through you, Chair. Certainly, Trustee McCray, thank you for the question. There is some data that we are able to extrapolate with respect to our long-term disability cases. With respect to absenteeism, certainly it can be a challenge because there are different variables that certainly add to that information. But I would like to tell you how I do measure success in regards to the program itself, and certainly that is through employee engagement. So I can tell that through our participation levels that we have, for example, in this initiative that we're running this month, that we have over 660 staff members participating in it. And the opportunity that we'll have at the end of the month, because we are looking for continued behavioral change, we'll be able to reach out to those staff members and ask them how this event has impacted them. Are they continuing to focus on nutrition? Are they continuing to focus on their mental health? Because Every Day in May currently looks at a number of factors that focus on a whole person, not necessarily just physical activity. It looks at mental health, stress, and a number of other items. I know that from employee feedback from our partners, for example, from our EFAP client services manager, mentioned to me at a meeting recently that we are one of the only employers that she knows that takes the program to a heightened level. That it's not just a check off. We have an EFAP program that we're out promoting it. That she herself is out into our schools and giving presentations to staff members, and that we're using the services that are available to us. Also, we're getting requests for repeat performances. So, for example, our mental health works. Although we are in a maintenance phase, we're having our supervisors and managers come forward to us asking for a refresher. I really appreciated that. It's been a couple of years now since I was in the initial training phase, and I'd really like to have a refresher. It's very valuable information. And also from what I see out in the system itself. So when I see other schools, where I see other work sites and schools taking on their own initiatives with respect to wellness, and we certainly heard some tonight, that to me is real evidence of success of not only this program but the wellness strategy of the board in general, because it's not a standalone. I think everything that we do as an organization contributes to the success of this program.
Any other comments or questions? Trustee McAllister?
Thanks, Penny. I follow your updates regularly, and that's very interesting. I have a question with regard to our employees, particularly our employees in the classroom, our teachers, EAs, and all the others who are in the classroom. Stress is obviously one of the big factors that these people have to deal with. How well is our staff, and how well do they feel that they are? You mentioned that you had evidence. Can you talk to that at all, or do you know?
Go ahead.
So through you, Chair, thank you, Trustee McAllister, for the question. I think it's very interesting. I know that we have surveyed our employees, and currently we're in a analysis phase of that, and we'll be able to have a gauge of how people are feeling and what stressors there are within their workplace or within their family life, because it is a survey on wellness and work-life balance. I know that, stress can manifest itself in so many ways. We can see the physical I guess, the physical determinants of stress. So you can look at 2 to 3 times mental health problems. You can look at you can look at back pain. So stress itself can manifest itself in a lot of different ways. So it can be hard to pinpoint per se, but we can look at our EFAP numbers. We can look at, and right now I know that our utilization is pretty much normal as far as most organizations go, so we don't see a huge increase there. It's very comparable to most other organizations our size. But looking at specifically stress itself, it's not something we've actually asked people. We have surveyed our staff and we're able to get information. Certainly we can look at our drug utilization as well. However, it doesn't our drug utilization is over the complete organization, and it certainly doesn't pinpoint teacher, EA, or administrative worker. So we know that we have our number one drug utilization is with respect to mental health, and we continue to focus on that as a priority within this program.
Go ahead.
Thank you for that answer. Are you going to be sharing that analysis with the board at some point?
Through you, Chair, I believe that at this point it is something that we're still reviewing, and it'll be looked at with respect to with the director, and then being brought forward at that point.
Trustee Kirkner?
Through you, Chair. Thank you, Penny, for the presentation and for bringing us up to date. I'd like to know if you have looked at attendance rates at all in comparison to your wellness studies.
Through you, Chair. Actually, Trustee Kirkner, we're in the process of looking at the information over the last 5 years. Keeping in mind that we've recently switched the tracking softwares, and so certainly last year those numbers were down, and this year we need to wait until the end of the year to be able to kind of look at where we've come over a 5-year period.
Chair Peters, may I just follow up
go ahead.
to that question? So just for clarification, you know, through our latest implementation of our MOUs for our employees, the sick leave and attendance program has changed significantly to what it was, and that makes the comparison somewhat difficult because of the rules of the game, if you will, have changed. But certainly we do have attendance data, and we do capture it on an annual basis, but we can also capture it through our UCARIS, our attendance and reporting absence program. We can capture it more readily than that, obviously, as well. With respect to absences as a result of illness, and Trustee McCrae mentioned earlier return to work, accommodated work, return to work, disability management, anything that flows out of disability management. I have to tell you that we are leaders in the province in that regard, in the way that we manage our illnesses and our return to work programs, and we have been cited repeatedly as one of the shining stars in the province as it relates to supporting our employees, getting them back to work as quickly as we can, and ensuring that they are appropriately accommodated when they return to work. So I think all of that, while it's not the direct work of the Wellness Project, I think it speaks to what Penny was saying, that the notion is embedding wellness in the culture of the organization, as opposed to having the Wellness Project, which stands alone, attempting to be the champion of wellness throughout the board.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much for your annual update. And roll look forward to it next year. Okay, our next item is Trustee McAllister's update on the Mental Health Summit.
Thank you, Chair. I will be brief. You have the report, but this was a summit. It's a true coalition of educators, professional service, student service personnel, mental health and health professionals, children's service agencies, children's service advocates, families, and students. And the goal is to collectively to bring a sense of urgency and action to the vital issue of mental health. And I think we have seen in the past number of years through such actions as this summit and this coalition, we have seen government, for example, streamline the delivery of services and the removal of silos. We are seeing those silos crumble there now, and the delivery of services is being coordinated much better amongst all those government agencies and departments. I was pleased to be part of the Upper Canada District School Board team, and I think there were at least 10 or 12 of us there, and we discussed our notes at the last Living Well Committee meeting. And I think we'll be talking about the mental health plan at a later date, so I won't go into that at all. But the conference can be summed up really in two ways. One was the importance and the need of evidence-based programming, and the other is resilience and how it can be developed within young people. And that was extremely interesting. For example, we had the Center for Excellence present to us various evidence-based programs that they were involved in, and they explained how they were working and how they were able to check them. The other thing is that we listened to a guest speaker named Dr. Michael Ungar, whom I highly recommend. And his basic topic was resilience, and what he was trying to say was that it is something that we can teach. Nurture does trump nature, and grit and perseverance can be taught. And I thought he made one interesting statement. It's applicable, and I was thinking of it when Principal LaMarche spoke there. And he said it's always better to offer substitute ways of coping rather than trying to suppress troubling behaviors. So, as Principal LaMarche was alluding to, setting kids up for success, developing trust, and having them take ownership. So just think about that. Better to offer substitute ways of coping rather than to suppress troubling behaviors. In any event, that was the gist of the conference, and I might say that there were a number of success factors that we can look to here locally. One is our own mental health plan, and we are now, in full swing with our mental health lead and the elaboration of the board plan. But perhaps Superintendent Allen might like to say a few more words about some of the comments.
Thank you, through you, Chair. We were pleased to have a team both from the Living Well Committee as well as a team from our Section 23 schools who focus specifically on mental health in their instruction. A couple things that were highlighted for us as well. Again, I'd like to echo the importance of using evidence-based programs within our schools, and that's a big part of the work of the Living Well Committee and the mental health lead in our board that you'll hear more about at a later date. But the impact that has and these programs have in our school and the classroom days. And the other thing I'd like to highlight is another quote from Dr. Unger. One of the things he said, and it shows the value of the work that we do in our schools every day. One of his quotes was, when a child walks through the door of a school, there needs to be at least one individual whose eyes light up as soon as they see that individual child. And he spoke a lot about how having those consistent people, not a whole bunch of programs, but a consistent person to connect with that child. And we have a lot of those sort of programs within our school now through the Michelangelo Kids, adopt a child, SOS programs, that sort of thing. We get that and we understand that in the Upper Canada Board, so it was great to have that reinforced. And it also brought home that the importance of the school-based programs is where we're going to make a difference with kids having that one-on-one connection. So thank you, Trustee McAllister, for letting me say a few words.
Any comments or questions? Trustee McMillan?
Through you, Chair, I agree with everything that you people are saying, especially that last part about that one or two significant people in a child's life. What I will be very interested in seeing is I'm glad to see that the silos are broken down. I'm glad to see that there's more coordination. But what I will be really interested to see is at the end of the day how all of that broken down is going to have a direct impact on the individual students who have special needs in terms of mental health. The silos are broken down, but I still don't see any evidence of those kids that really need that help, getting that help immediately and having it stretched over a long term. It seems to be still pretty sporadic, and you have to fight as hard as you can fight to get heard and get the help. So it's nice to see we're taking steps beyond the school board, but I think there's a lot of work still to be done to get some of those kids that really need that extra help that's beyond our expertise, and they're sitting in our schools every day.
Trustee McCray?
Through you, Chair, I just think that Jeff McMillan, Trustee Jeff McMillan, has hit on a very important point, and that is, in a critical situation, the first place, if I was a parent, I would probably take my child, if they had a mental health challenge, would be to my local hospital. And I think that in terms of developing programs from a community-based type of thing, I think one of the things we need to do somehow is to embed mental health into the strategic plans of every Ontario hospital in the province. Everything else seems to be taking a precedence, especially our aging populations. And we keep saying we're going to do it, and mental health is one of those items that we really need to be dealing with. But within our own communities, if it's not in the hospital, it needs to start there. And as well, the staff there need to be educated on how to deal with mental health for our children. And then from there, they are sent to a specialist or whatever. But that's the first place that you would take a child. So that's their first encounter with a position where they're going to get some support and some assistance. I really do believe that that's one of the places that needs to start. But it needs to be embedded right into the strategic plan.
Trustee Buck?
So I hope you'll share that with your...
Trustee Buckland?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair. I heard the statement that nurture trumps nature. Now, I want to caution if it's your own view, President Housman, that it can enhance, I think, a weak nature, but we must never discard nature. And we can't go completely Skinnerian and deny the great work that other people have shown part of it. Definitely, it is present, but I would not want us to focus only on nurture.
Trustee McAllister?
I'm not getting into philosophical debate or psychological debate with regard to Skinner and his reliance on nurture, but the basic thing is that we take kids where they are, and that when they are more connected to their school, we can make them more resilient. Maybe that's what Dean was saying. And every kid, I think, we're trying to do is with resilience is to provide kids with tools in a toolbox with which to deal with various situations.
All right.
Through you, Chair.
Yep. Go ahead, Trustee Swan.
I'd just like to say that I think we're going a little far saying that it's our local hospital's responsibility, or that's the first place that children with mental health illnesses would go with their parents. I mean, many would take them to a physician first, but I think we're doing a very good job here, and we're moving forward here, and we can support these, and maybe we can be on joint committees with physicians and surgeons and hospitals. And maybe that's a step we can look at incorporating in our charters. But saying they aren't doing a good enough job, I just have to disagree with Trustee McCray right now.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Trustee McAllister and Superintendent Allen, for bringing that forward. Our next item is the board borrowing and credit facility resolutions. Do you have any comments to make, or do you want me to just go ahead? This is normal. We borrow money to pay for schools. And
It's an annual report that we bring here. The bank requires us to have board motions passed allowing us to borrow in the short term if the need arises. For operating and for our construction projects.
All right, so I've got a number of motions. I'm going to start off with Trustee McMillan and Trustee Buckland, if you're okay with that, moving the first one. That the Committee of the Whole recommends the Upper Canada District School Board authorize administration to borrow funds as stipulated in Board Policy 325 and consistent with the board's banking contract for cash flow purposes and to support the operational and capital needs of the board for 2014-2015. You okay with that? You can go ahead and cast your ballot. If you're not logged in, just okay, that passes unanimously. Next motion, moved by Trustee Garrow, Trustee Karkner, that Committee of the Whole recommend the Upper Canada District School Board authorize a credit facility with its bank, RBC Royal Bank, of $800,000 for short-term borrowing needs related to the remaining construction project work at North Grenville District High School until such time as the Minister of Education funding is received. Go ahead and cast your... I'm sorry. Yes, I was told to slow down. Trustee Karkner? Or Trustee Garrow? Doesn't matter. Trustee Karkner or Trustee Garrow. Trustee Buckland, Trustee Swan. Waiting for your vote, Trustee Buckland.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In favor.
Oh, good. Okay, next one, a mover and a seconder, Trustee McAllister, Trustee Richards, that the Committee of the Whole recommend the Upper Canada District School Board authorize a credit facility with its bank, RBC Royal, of $11,200,000 for the short-term borrowing needs for the related construction of a new Winchester Public School until such time as the Ministry of Education funding is received.
I didn't hear that.
Did I get caught? Okay.
Did that very
All right,
quickly.
try that again.
Suburbs.
Moved by Trustee McCray and seconded by Trustee Richards that the Upper Canada District School Board authorize a credit facility with the bank RBC Royal for $11,200,000 for short-term borrowing needs for the related to the construction of a new Kemptville Public School until such time as the Minister of Education funding is received. Go ahead and cast your ballot. I preferred the other one.
Through you, Chair.
Yep.
A quick question. When we're borrowing all this money until the funding is received, then basically are we out the interest, and where does this money come from?
Superintendent of Business.
Through you, Chair, these, Trustee Swan, these credit facilities are put in place in case we do need to borrow in the short term while we await the ministry funding. And if we do in fact have to borrow in the short term and incur interest, it is completely reimbursed by the Ministry of Education.
Thank you very much.
Okay, last motion. Trustee Swan, you want to move this one? Or
Yes.
Trustee McDonald, seconded. The Committee of the Whole recommend the Upper Canada District School Board authorize a credit facility with its bank RBC of, this is only $8.5 million, so I'm not interested in this one. $8.4 million for short-term borrowing needs related to the construction of a new consolidated elementary school in Cornwall until such time as the Ministry of Education funding is received. Go ahead and cast your vote. We're not done yet. Trustee McCray, good? Okay. Last one, moved by Trustee Carpenter, Trustee McMillan. The Committee of the Whole recommend the Upper Canada District School Board authorize a credit facility with its bank, RBC Royal Bank, in the amount of $14 million for short-term borrowing needs related to full-day kindergarten capital construction until such time as the Ministry of Education funding is received. I think maybe we should get an advertising plug for every time we mention the bank. Go ahead and
Like TV.
Through you, Chair, one more question, please.
go ahead.
Do we put out RFPs for our bank every 4 years or something?
Yes. Yep. What's the period of time?
5 years.
5 years? Every 5 years, which is consistent with what we do with our accountants too, right? 5 years. Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. All that is done. Move on now to the next item, which is accountability framework item, our graduation rate. We have a number of key result indicators that the board will be using to monitor its progress in achieving its strategic objectives. And we are getting a report on the graduation rate this evening. And Mr. Dawes.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this presentation is to update trustees with respect to Ministry and Upper Canada District School Board graduation rates. Of course, trustees have received information on our system-wide graduation rates previously. I'm pleased to have this opportunity to present an overview of up-to-date system graduation rates for our board and the methods that are used to calculate those graduation rates as they also apply to the Ministry of Education. I'm also pleased that this information is a step forward in connection with the work that's being completed through the Trustees Accountability Framework. First and foremost, as a context to the information I'm going to present, a reminder to trustees that our board has been ahead of the Ministry of Education in the development of graduation rates for the system. And we've been ahead of the ministry because of the early adoption of our CREW strategic plan and the 90% graduation rate goal. Of course, then it was incumbent upon us as a board to have a methodology in place whereby we could understand our progress with respect to that board goal. 5 years ago, really, the Upper Canada Board began calculating its graduation rates. Several years ago, trustees should be aware that the Ministry of Education also began to calculate system-wide board graduation rates based upon a very similar but just somewhat slightly different methodology that the Upper Canada Board uses, and I'll clarify that in a minute. Trustees should also be aware that the Ministry plans to publicly release all of its board-wide graduation rates effective spring 2015. The original plan from the Ministry was to release those board graduation rates last March. That's been delayed now till next year. So what we have here is the explanation we've been using really since the beginning of the UCDSB methodology to clarify the method that we use when we track students over a 4 and a 5 year period of time. The basic concept behind the calculation of both the ministry and UCDSB graduation rates is basically the same. We begin with a cohort of students in grade 9, and then we measure how many of those students graduate after a 4-year period and then again after the 5-year period. What you see before you is, again, the methodology definitions that we use to identify the grade 9 cohort, the cohort period, what we mean by a graduate, and if a student in that cohort of grade 9 students over 4 and 5 years isn't a graduate, they fall into 3 other categories. They could be a leaver, they could be a student that didn't receive an OSSD but received a certificate, or they could still be in progress. In other words, a student that finished year 4 but was still continuing to get their diploma for year 5 would be a student still in progress. I think trustees should pay particular attention, though, to in the top box under grade 9 cohort, you'll see a line there that says the grade 9 cohort does not include students that have transferred to other boards after October 31st of year 1 of the cohort period, or new admissions received after October 31st of year 1 of the cohort period. What we're getting at there is we identify the grade 9 cohort for up to October 31st of that year. If students from the cohort, the way we calculated in the Upper Canada Board, transfer to another board of education in Ontario, we take those students out of that cohort. So we're only measuring the students that go to Upper Canada District School Board schools. And again, as specified in that chart, the new admissions that a school might receive or our board will receive after October 31st won't show up in that cohort. We only identify those grade 9 students that are effective in our schools effective October 31st of their first year in grade 9. So from that methodology, we have a table here that shows what the Upper Canada District School Board's graduation rates have been as a system over the last 6-year period. So if I could use the top line, the 2003-04 cohort as an example, you can see that there would have been 2,614 students in grade 9 in that particular cohort in October, by October 31st of 2003, okay? In the 4th year of the cohort journey of those students, 1,759 of those students graduated. And then in the 5th year, an additional 286 students from that cohort graduated. So the total 4 and 5 year combined student graduates from that original cohort of 2,614 students represents 78.2% of that original cohort. So that's the methodology that we use to track students over that 4 and 5 year period to develop our system-wide rates. And you can see over the last 6 years, we've had quite remarkable progress in our graduation rates, particularly in those first 3 years. 78.2% graduation rate became 78.9, moved up to 80.0, up to 82.6, and then for the last 3 years, we've been pretty much stable, 82.6, 82.7, and 82.3 most recently. So that's the data we have the most recently available to us is from the 2008-09 grade 9 cohort, who would have graduated in their 5th year at the end of the last year, the 2012-13 school year. So I mentioned earlier that the Ministry of Education has now started to communicate to school boards across the province their system-wide graduation rates based on the ministry's methodology. And what I wanted to do in this table is just highlight the key differences between the ministry's methodology and the Upper Canada District School Board's methodology. And I think the key item on this table to pay note to is that bottom line that says resident board. When the ministry is interested in understanding graduation rates from a provincial perspective, they include students in that original grade 9 cohort that move to another board, okay? So if a student started in our board at a particular school and moved to the Limestone board, moved to a coterminous school, those students would still be included in that cohort measure as defined by the Ministry of Education's graduation rate methodology. There are a few other variations in methodology as well that you should be free to look into. But I think that's really the key one that you want to remember in the back of your mind when I show you the difference in the results that we see on the system-wide graduation rates that result. Which is what this next table is all about. We've only received now 2 years of data system-wide from the Ministry of Education, so I wanted to take an opportunity to compare what the Ministry's graduation rate, based on their methodology, looks like compared to our own UCDSB methodology, and that's what these tables show. The 2007 and 8 cohort, which would have graduated in the 2011-12 school year, you can see the Ministry's rate finds us a graduation rate of 78% compared to the UCDSB methodology, which was 82.7. Our most recent data for the 2008-09 cohort, which again would have graduated last year, system-wide graduation rate comes out on the Ministry methodology at 77.1 compared to the UCDSB rate, which was 82.3. So you can see that there's a lower graduation rate that's resulting from the Ministry's methodology. And again, I think primarily that accounts for those students that are resident in other boards, no longer with the Upper Canada District School Board. A reminder again that the Ministry has not publicly released these figures. The plan is for them to publicly release all school boards' system-wide graduation rates next spring. So I wanted to conclude this presentation with a graphical indicator of the data that I just presented to you. The blue line shows the UCDSB graduation rate system-wide over the last 6-year period. The orange line shows the Ministry of Education's graduation rate results for our board. And you can see up at the top we have the two goals. The UCDSB goal at 90% is the top dashed line, and the Ministry has a provincial-wide goal of 85% for graduation rate objective goal. So I think with the work that the committee is doing on the accountability framework, we'll certainly have opportunities to examine other ways that we might want to format this particular data. This was just a graph that I put together for the interest of trustees at this point, but we would certainly be interested and willing and available to format in any way that you would find useful and useful for the purposes of the board. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
So when you talk about the provincial number, and they're tracking a greater cohort because they're tracking the ones that left, if student X leaves and goes to a board and graduates, does that count as a graduate for us?
Yes, it does, Chair.
So could the difference be then that we know that our most vulnerable population are also our most transient population, and that by the fact that could that be generating the discrepancy?
Through you, Chair, I think I'm not alone in saying boards will be very interested to receive additional information from the Ministry so that we can more deeply understand the information that we're looking at. When we calculate the Upper Canada District School Board rate, we have gotten to a very, very precise level of detail now. We actually have lists of students that we can understand are on a particular path with any given school. The data that we're receiving from the Ministry, although we will provide that data to the Ministry, what we're getting back from the Ministry is only numerical data. It's not the elemental data, the student by student data that would really help us to understand the particular nature of the information that we're seeing. So again, I think I join my research colleagues from across the province in stating that we're hopeful from the Ministry that we'll receive the level and detail on this data that will allow us to understand those trends more completely.
McDonald?
I want to stay on that for a second. If we lose a student, or a student decides to move, we don't lose students. If a student decides to move, and whether that student graduates or not on a coterminous board or another board within the province, it goes against our graduation rate.
Through you, Chair. Again, yes, the way to look at this is how that original cohort is identified. So you start with a cohort and then you measure against that cohort at the end. In our methodology, if a student moves to another board, we take the student out of that cohort. In the Ministry's model, if the student moves to another board, it's still in that cohort that they measure after the 4 and 5 year period.
so I understand our methodology to their methodology. However, we're going to get into a situation where the provincial government will be publishing their methodology, and we will get into the same situation as we do with EKO results, as Fraser Institute reports, all these types of things where we are having to defend, discuss, whatever we need to do based on what information is being provided to the public. What may differ than ours. So the ability for the province to do that is because they have a master control of all the students. Would we be able to track those students who left our board simply by requesting OSR at the end of the graduating year?
Through you, Chair. Again, I would say I'm very, very hopeful that we would be able to track that information. As of today, we haven't been able to receive that level of detail from the ministry, and so we'll be pursuing that. I think it will really be incumbent upon all boards to have the information necessary to tell our story. So here's a number, but what does the number mean? So we have to be able to provide the information so that we can clarify from a number of perspectives what it means from a communication point of view, but also from a key results indicator or improvement perspective as well.
Trustee McDonald?
Just as a follow-up, so although the students that would come into our board would not be on our final report by the ministry, they would be reported out to wherever home board they started in grade 9.
The ministry, through each other, the ministry is a little more flexible in its identification of grade 9 students coming in. We only track students up to and ending by October 31st of the year. The ministry actually includes in its cohort students that would come in for grade 9 across the entire school year. So to that extent, they're identifying a slightly larger cohort. But after the end of that first year of grade 9, you're right, the student is then in the cohort that they started in. If they move to another board, they're still measured against that original cohort.
Okay, go ahead.
So what's the benefit or drawback for us to only measure at October 31st as opposed to any time within that school year? We would have a period of 3.5+ years potentially to work with that student if they entered our system in grade 9.
Through you, Chair, if I understand you correctly, I don't think from an overall enrollment point of view there would be a significant impact on this. It was simply a methodology that we started on because we needed a way to develop a graduation rate that we could understand how we were improving as a system. We chose October 31st because it's a key enrollment reporting date each year, and we just thought it would be an easy way, a good way to be able to track those students based on that key date point after a 4 and a 5 year period.
Director.
The issue here, Vice Chair McDonald, is that we were waiting and waiting for a methodology to get a very important question to this board, and so we started our own. To move to what the ministry has said will not be a big issue. We just started this before they gave the definition. So we've been working on something to give you the results over the last 10 years. And so while we kept waiting and waiting, it changed several times, and there's different iterations and a lot of politics, we actually sort of drew a line in the sand. For us, this is what we're doing. To move to that new methodology would not be a great stretch for us.
I'll just let it go and then ask another question.
Okay. Trustee McAllister?
If it's not a big stretch for us to move to that new methodology, then would it not be incumbent upon us to do so, because it would clarify the figures that will be released by the government in 2015. And frankly, it just doesn't make sense that a student X who registers in one of our schools on November the 1st in grade 9 stays with us for the rest of his or her career minus 2 months. Is excluded from our cohort. That doesn't make sense.
Director?
First of all, we agree, but remember, we've been doing this for longer than the ministry's given us the work. So we would be comparing apples with oranges. That's where we'd have to start to say is that we collected this data long before they had a definition. Now that they have a definition that we'll use, will affect these, but I'm not sure the impact on our previous work. But I think that just sort of sits there saying we've been doing this all along, and we've been explaining our position to the ministry all the way through. And I guess one of our fears may be that it may change again as you go through. So we have something we've been using. We can move to it to the new one, very easily. Our concern is that this has been a moving target for several years, and we've had something that's worked for us that we've been able to use as part of our decision making. And now, if we draw this line in the sand, it'll be something that all the boards would use, and we're prepared to move that way.
Trustee Buckland?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In a fleeting glance at the chart on the graduation after fifth year, it looked as though we had gone up 5%, and our students who had transferred out on the ministry calculation, they had increased their graduation rate 7%. Is there any significance to that?
Through you, Chair. I'm sorry, Trustee Buckland, are you referring to the chart on the final page of the presentation? I'm not sure.
No, numbers. We were at 82 after 5 years, and we had increased from 4 to 5 years about 5%, the number of students graduating. And the ministry, with our students who had left the system and were graduating somewhere else, in the fifth year, had increased 7%. So I'm just wondering if the 2% difference between the number of students in our fifth year graduating and the number of students graduating at other boards is significant. Have I stumped you?
Through you, Chair. A little bit. Yeah, let me take a shot. I think what we're showing is there's only been 2 years of data from the ministry's methodology, and that doesn't show an increase. It actually shows a slight decrease. The first year we got data, our graduation rate based on the ministry's model was 78%, and the most recent cohort data shows 77.1. So
Look
that's
at the bottom line, please, if I could, Mr. Chairman.
yeah, what we're comparing there is the Ministry of Education's methodology result versus the UCDSB's methodology result. So if you want to compare the ministry methodology apples to apples, you want to look at the bottom line of the first table compared to the bottom line of the second table.
I still don't have it. The bottom line shows Ministry of Education, 4-year grad 78 and 5-year 77.
Oh, okay.
Right, ours shows, 70, what is it, 78, is it? 82, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
I see.
Was that a significant
Oh.
change? We'll look at that later?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Trustee McDonald?
Thank you. If we want to, and I appreciate the fact that it's been a moving target and the ministry's been quite evasive on this. However, the target's out there now. Our methodology was put in place well before this, and I certainly appreciate that. With the methodology that is known by the ministry now, I think it would be fairly easy to be able to say, rather than taking the October 31st date, we can understand how many students enrolled with us between October 31st and June 28th, whatever the case may be. That's one basic criteria that's changed. The second one is the resident board. If we're not going to be credited with the success of a student that might come to us after grade 9, I can appreciate that. However, if we're going to be credited with the failure or success of a student that would move our board after grade 9, that would be difficult to measure. But we should know how many students would have left within those cohort years. So that would be able to give us a target of where we are, or at least explain the delta between where we are. So we could rerun these numbers based on the criteria that the ministry is being provided, which may give us a different result.
Through you, Chair, yes, and we endeavor to do that, most certainly.
If I look at the graduation rates that we've used so far, based on the methodology, we've, over a 6-year period, or we can use the last chart, which gives you the graph, we've gone from 78 to 82%. It's not a huge trajectory in a 6-year period. Our goal is 2020. Based on the trajectory that we've achieved so far, do we still believe that we're going to achieve our goal within the next 5 years? I guess 6 years.
We're going to do everything that we can possibly do, and you guys know that we pulled all the stops right now. We're making some dramatic changes to how we do business, and you've heard tonight that we believe the schoolhouse is the place to do it. And the investment of my energy and the time I put into this, I'm committed to this. This is roll up our sleeves time and get at this. The sense of urgency that I have with the system of this is how I believe it can be done. I know that you have, as a board of trustees, have resoundingly supported that. I believe our principals who've been watching you make the presentations are ready for this. I think the proof now will be in the hard work of the men and women who teach our kids and have rigorous care for what they're doing. This will be the work and the legacy of this board. So yes.
And I appreciate that answer. I guess my concern is we're making some changes, but how do we see that trajectory taking off? If we've got significant gains to be done over the next 6 years, let's count this year as one of those years because we don't know what the graduation rate is yet. We've got some big jumps to make. So are we going to see huge gains in the first year, the first 2 years? Or are we going to see the gains only in the latter end? How do we see that trajectory changing? What's our forecast? What's our vision for the next 6 years on that graduation rate?
Director? First of all, this is going to be done with the fact the methodology is that we believe sustainable long-term growth will be in, as Collins talks about in his work From Good to Great, and I believe it will be measured here, is real, steady progress in every single school, measured accurately with feedback regularly of how they're doing. But this is going to happen right in the principal's office and the classroom. So if you're looking for me to say, I think it's going to be 84, 85, I would like to think it's probably going to be a real strong inch by inch growth to where we hit 90 and it's sustainable, and we haven't done some razzmadazzle stuff that says, oh, we got it. I would like to think that this is real steady work in our classrooms where teachers are making a difference in kids' lives and are connecting the kids to the futures. That we think that after we hit the 90, that this is sustainable, that wasn't some sort of a quick knee-jerk, we got the bump that we needed and we can part. I want this to be sustainable for the legacy of this board.
Go ahead. And I think sustainability is an important aspect. I mean, if we go through this work, only for it to be lost after we get to the 90%, it's all in vain. So if it's going to be a steady increment, then we need to get at least a 1.5 to 2% gain on an annual basis moving forward if we've got 6 years to do that. What do we do next year at this time if we have seen a decrease? Do we still anticipate the plan that we have in place is going to make sure that we achieve that? Or what's the plan then to recover for that drop or that lack of a gain?
I'll reiterate again, and first of all, I appreciate the urgency that you're creating for this. I hope that the men and women who lead this system for us will understand the sense of passion you share that with, and the urgency that you're asking for this to be done. That's what's motivating me. I believe it has to be done in increments that you've just described. I think for us, we know the first thing that happens in a major change, and Trustee McDonald, you understand this is a major change of the architecture of this organization. And those 10 leaders in the cap positions have got to have the burden that you're placing on me right now. And I feel very heavy, and I'm not afraid of work, and we're going to do it. What has to happen now is the other 3,900 employees and 5,000 full and part-time employees recognize what you have just said is the work of the board. And so we're going to do everything we can. What we have in place now is quickly coming, is the people in place to lead this through. We'll be announcing that soon, who the 10 CAP leaders are. My thing here, David, to be absolutely frank, if we move the deck chairs on this one and don't get the push and shove that we need, then it may have been a waste of time. I don't believe that. I just finished interviewing with Associate Director Carswell 29 people that want to make this go, and it was absolutely energizing. And I believe that it's the magic of this will not come from some presto or buying some special program. It's going to come from rolling up the sleeves and doing the hard work. Mr. Dawes reflected on the fact we know the names of every single kid who's at risk. We can go down with that level of attention and detail. And I think what we have to do now is what are the plans for every single one of those kids, in whether they're in grade 7 and coming through, which is the group, the 6s and 7s, are that graduating class of 2020, and we have to watch very closely. It is an impressive burden, and I think we're ready to respond.
Trustee McDonald?
Thank you. I said in the previous meeting that I think, the endeavor that we've had to flatten the organization was very courageous for us to do that. And I go back to several conversations I've had with different individuals, and I think, the ability for a principal within a family of schools to affect change on the graduation rate might be hard to define at this point, because the anticipation or the expectation, I guess, for those principals is that they're going to be resolving issues within the community as well. So they're going to be dealing with those issues of a parent calling a principal at another school and helping them with that. So, I think it's a dangerous situation if we apply the burden upon 10 people to say that this is where it's going to happen. I think it's going to assist us, but I'm not sure that having 10 people in charge of family of the schools is going to lead directly to the graduation rate completely. I think there's a link, but I'm not sure it's a direct link.
Well, let me make myself more clear through you, Chair, at the risk of having a conversation with Vice Chair McDonald. It's a very good conversation. I don't believe those 10 people are going to improve results. It's the 3,900 employees who have to pick up the urgency that you have described so well today. If that urgency is left on me and doesn't make it out of the system, this has failed. But for us to think those 10 are going to do it is very simplistic. The men and women who will be working with those CAP leaders and our senior team and the Board of Trustees have got to make this happen. And we believe it's going to happen at the schoolhouse, not at the board table. We have to, and I think we have had outstanding governance. Now it's time to work, and that's what we have to do.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Trustee Richards?
In one of your earlier slides, you talked about the destinations fall into 3 categories: the leavers, the certificates, and the in progress. I'd like to see, out of the, the 600 students that didn't graduate, like in the rate, what the percentages of each of these were, because some of them are still in school, and that could be some of our students that stay till they're 21. So that could, like our special needs students.
Thank you. Through Chair, I appreciate that question. We can get all sorts of different layers of specificity on this, and we can certainly comply with that good request. Thank you.
Okay, so I have one additional question. Every now and then we hear about a graduation rate, sometimes used by our coterminous board or other boards. They'll throw out, yeah, we have a 92% graduation rate. When they're calculating that rate, what are they normally referring to?
Through you, Chair, I think that is one of the silver linings coming out of the ministry approach. We will have a consistent approach that we now know is being applied right across different boards across the province. Quite frankly, in trying to answer your question, I wouldn't be able to do it. Although trustees will recall, as early as 4 or 5 years ago, there were boards in the province of Ontario that were using simplistic approach, such as taking the percentage of students that started in grade 12 and completed at the end of that 5th-year period, which we all agreed at that time didn't seem to be a reasonable way or a useful way of measuring graduation rates. It wouldn't surprise me that there's still some boards using those types of approaches. So to the benefit of the ministry, I think it's very good that we're getting an approach that we can say, we understand now how we compare to other boards based upon a common methodology.
Okay, so just as a final comment, I think that this is one of the first easy for us to understand because we've dealt with it, sort of KRI that we reported on, and I think that the conversation about how we react is important and what it means that we're going to do. And David, I think we've been aware that we had sort of this flattening of the graduation rate. So you've already made some changes. I think that whether you're prepared to do this now or whether we wait and do it when we get the next number, I think that attached to a report like this would be great if we had sort of the response, or sometimes there's going to be one because there's no need to, but going forward, I think we should start developing sort of, okay, well, the number went up, that's great, we're going to continue what we're doing, or the number's flatline, this is the changes that we're doing, or we want to wait and see what happens because we've done this. So as we get more sophisticated with the accountability framework, we can expand it and add that to the reporting cycle as well. So that's good. We have the graduation rate out there, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate the work that you put into it, Phil. I know this has been a long process and working through it, and it's good. We have a graduation rate of 82.3%, and we've got 7.8% to go. Go ahead.
Just back to a comment you made, Mr. Dawes, about rerunning the numbers based on the new. When are you going to actually do that, and can we get an idea of what the change is?
Well, through you, Chair, our department now is beginning its work to clarify data for this current year, so it would be very timely for us to now embark upon your request for previous cohort years. So I would see that as work that would happen over the summer, and we should be prepared to report back sometime next fall.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Now move on to our next item, which is update on the recommendations from Crew Charter E47. Director?
I'm going to send out a draft letter that, and the risk of when you get letters like this that haven't gone out yet, that 19 or 20 people helping you edit the letter, I think Shakespeare would say is insanity. So I'm not sending it out for editing purposes, but I'm going to refer to it in a moment as part of the work of E47 charter that you heard a great deal about recently in a presentation by the charter champions, Marty Lindsay, Jeff Tarasic, and of course Phil. Phil, could you stay at the table for a second? Don't you run away from work. And Phil, thank you for your work and leadership to this. Your property started on Trustee McDonald's work, and I appreciate that as we go through. To the trustees, I've sent out old school and a paper copy of the report you received. And what I want you to go to page 7 of 9 at the beginning, and I'd like to go to the conclusion. And I'd like to take you to the third paragraph, and it starts with, in essence, it can be recognized that the E47 Charter has been a celebration of the hard work of our schools have undertaken in connection with the UCDSB's agenda of rigorous care. I remind you, the reason why I brought that to your attention, we accept the challenge that all means all, and we take them all in. In fact, I think what's really wonderful about being part of Upper Canada is we have this real privilege that we can accept them all. And you may remember this table, Vice Chair McDonald said, isn't that our challenge, that we can take them all? Isn't that wonderful? And I remind you that we have taken that, and we ran this charter, which is coming to conclusion now. E47 was to take a look at what is actually happening. There was a urban myth out there that somehow, with declining enrollment, we were losing students to our coterminous board, our coterminous French board, and our coterminous French public board. Well, it's just not the case. And in a 10-year study that Phil and Marnie and Jeff were involved in, each year we average average between 300 and 400 secondary students come to our board. And we lose, if you call losing, choosing at the elementary panel, of approximately 50 to 80 kids a year go to our coterminous boards or French Catholic, and that's through tracking our OSRs. You then asked me in the recommendations to deal with specific issues, so that's one of the reasons why you're seeing a letter. And may I go further? I think after you take a look at my letter to the Deputy Minister, I would recommend humbly from my position that you ask me to draft a letter from the chair that would go to the Minister of Education at the appropriate time to make this point. We believe strongly that we're educating upwards to 400 kids a year, and we're picking up and losing resources to do that with, in the sense that the kids are in our coterminous plural boards. The dates, and Nancy can confirm this, are 2 dates for recognizing head count in our systems, that we have kids in our systems up to 4 and 5 months that we actually don't get revenue for until the changeover. I believe it's in March. And at that particular time, we catch up as we go through. And I think that that's something that we should be talking about as we go through, because 400 kids for over half a year is a middle to large school in our board that is not being funded to create that. So I have a letter, and I've been following this along, is that we're re-examining the resources for our schools. We're taking a look at one of the concerns that was raised by this very talented group of people was several of the kids who are joining us have issues that normal teenagers have, but they're potentially overrepresented, social, emotional, mental health issues, and sometimes just the fact that they don't want to be in a religious setting, and they choose a non-denominational character-filled Board of Education. So one of the requests of me and the senior team was to prepare this letter and bring it to the attention of the ministry folks, to ask them to re-examine how budgets are formed and how we're funded. And as we move along, we're also let you know that one of the things that was requested and recommended is that I meet with the coterminous board's leadership. That's being organized. I'm meeting on May the 30th with my coterminous director, who I enjoy a very good relationship with, and his staff. David Coombs will be joining me, and we'll be talking about issues that related to both our boards and how we can work with each other. And we're also at this particular time, as you know, really examining, and Ian is doing this with, and we have a third-party reviewer, our work with Chair Leger and the impact of alternative schools. So this charter is moving along really well. It's filled with politics, however, as you can see, and you know that. And so I leave that for you. And with perhaps my recommendation is that the board may consider that the chair take a political situation and bring to the Minister of Education's attention this particular funding issue that we're taking a look at. So I turn that to you and leave that report with you now.
Okay, trustees, any comments, questions? Trustee McCray?
To you, Chair, Director, in writing this letter, did you get any indication, for example, the types of the amount of revenue that we are potentially missing out on this board when, like in a given year?
We're looking at approximately 300 to 400 students on average, an approximate, if you do the math, in the neighborhood of like $5,000 per student. So we have not calculated that right down to precise numbers. It's something that we're working on, that Phil and Superintendent Barker will work on. But we are prepared to get at those numbers to defend our position.
Trustee McCray?
And just add to that, I think it would be interesting to maybe give some strength to the letter if there could also be some indication of the numbers of challenged or special needs children that we are accepting from other boards in a given year. Because wouldn't there also be the funds that are associated to those for those children as well?
Our examination right now would say that the vast majority of the kids that come over, particularly in secondary school, are coming over with not significant identifications, in the sense that this is not a widespread group of highly identified, very, very needy, in the sense of kids who would be multiple designations. These are more the kids who perhaps at the stage in their life, the typical, and Phil can probably articulate this better than myself, it is perhaps a person's a little turned off with things that are going on. They are perhaps attracted to our brand and what we do with our brand, and and what we see is the kids are coming over. Usually it's a very personal decision. It's not a decision that even perhaps mom and dad are working with them. It's the typical is someone said, I can do better over there, and that would, and what we see with the data that you saw there, it's actually widespread through our entire system. It's not like more in Lanark or not enough in Cornwall. It's actually widespread right across our system. And I would say that from my perspective, as we shine a light on this issue, it's probably an issue in all of Ontario. It's not just ours. And I think as I raise this with the Council of Directors of Education, it's something we should do. I'll be asking Nancy to raise that with the senior business officials. I'll also be asking Charlotte, who is the one of the founding presidents and leaders of the HR group, to discuss this at their group. And I think it'll be quite interesting as both of those groups enjoy both the separate board and the public board as part of their membership as we go through. But no, this particular time is not an exodus of special needs or special education kids. Now, I will say further through you, Chair, is that at the elementary panel, we do pick up some kids, but that is often done in a really good transfer between schools where we have a higher level of expertise, and that is not done usually in term throughout the course of the year. Often those are transitions at the start of the school year or planned over the course of the summer, and we really work hard with the parents, our coterminous boards, plural because it's French, as well as, and often those are very important landing spots for kids in our very sophisticated special education programs of our board.
Trustee McDonald?
So the data, David, I'm looking at your Appendix D.
Yeah. Let me go there, David.
In the Appendix D, you're identifying the schools, the admissions from coterminous, transfers to coterminous, and then your net. What's the...
Is there one specific one you're looking at?
Well, what's the difference? Okay, let's do this one first. So this is one school year, right? We're looking at 2012-2013 school year.
Yes.
So we had an increase in that particular year. It looks, based on our numbers, right? We had a net increase of 3, 4, yeah, 460 some, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Is that an anomaly? And let me before it, I'm asking, is it an anomaly because I'm thinking of this particular school year when we had a situation of some decreasing in enrollment in different areas.
First, could you go a little deeper, Dave? I think I may take this in the wrong direction.
So I guess one of my concern is we have some evidence on this particular school year that we've got some admissions in from other schools, other boards. But is this an anomaly in the sense that this is a particularly high year? Because last year we received a report that we had, this past fall, we actually had a reduction in students in Tierra League and a few other places. So there was like it was 100 students or 200 students, I think it was.
Well, Phil may help me out here. The declining enrollment piece, as you understand very, very well, some of that is caught up in that particular area because it's for a long period of time we had to explain our identification of staffing and what we're doing with staffing in declining market, that we weren't losing kids. The kids are, as you may remember, we had this decline all the way through the elementary panel, and now it's hit the secondary panel, something we've been planning for a long time. This particular anomaly, this past year, those are really an apple and an orange. They're really not related. The planning that we missed on picking those kids up really had nothing to do with this. And if I may push in a different direction, David, through the chair, I think there's a really a very important story here that's told, particularly this year and we're in, is that with the job action that we went through, we really held our own. As you may be aware from your seat at OPSPA, we had boards that lost 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 kids, and we actually, at this particular time, held our own. And I think it had to do with the courageous decisions of this board in general, as we've been able to. But on an average, Trustee McDonald, we pick up 300 to 400 kids.
So David, just while we have those sheets, Appendix E, what's the difference between from ESIS and from OSR Tracker?
I'm through you. I'll turn it over to Phil.
Through you, Chair, when you look at the total numbers, the difference we found was about 200 students. And you'll notice in the report, we made specific mention to the confidence we had in the ESIS, ONSIS data. The real message coming out of the differential that we saw in the OSR tracker data was the lag time that we were seeing between students choosing, let me get this right, to go to a coterminous school and the records actually following that student.
I wasn't necessarily interested in the number. How do we get the difference between ESIS and OCR? Or OSR, I'm sorry. So, ESIS is our internal information?
Yes.
So, I guess I'm having a hard, why would ESIS and OSR be different? It should be the same, shouldn't it?
Through you, Chair, in a perfect world, yes, it would. But again, what our review team found, they went to every school and interviewed the staff in the school and actually looked at the OSR tracker records. So you're coming at a different function for those particular data sets. What we were able to track through ONSIS, again, is tied in with ministry funding, et cetera, et cetera. The OSR tracker is a means of actually meeting student movement as met by the specific actions in the school itself. So again, the schools actually find the OSR tracker data valuable. When we looked at it from a system perspective, we found that differential. And again, what it came down to was the pure operations associated with having those student records follow or come with the students when they transferred between boards. So you'll see in the report an actual recommendation from staff that we would like to work with schools to improve the timeliness of their reporting of the OSR tracker data itself. But it really did come down to that one specific element of that process, the way that information is reported.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I don't know if you said it, but are we funded based on the OSR tracker or the ESIS?
Based on the ESIS.
Okay. So, we take the ESIS information and send it to the ministry?
Yes.
If I may, through your chair, we wanted Marnie and Jeff to go deep dive into this one to get right into the minute. And what we have discovered, and why we're going to look at the procedures around tracking OSRs, is that we have to make a more precise call for an OSR. What we have discovered that some schools, changing administration and so forth, there's sometimes a lag of 3 and 4 months before an OSR comes from a different school. And so again, when you do a thorough examination like this, there are other things that you can really look at to be more effective. Now, we can't make another board move faster to get their OSRs to us, but we can in-house become ourselves more vigilant and more precise in how we move forward information.
Just one final, and then I'll let someone else go ahead. Just to the point of coterminous, when we talk about coterminous, we generally refer to a Catholic district school board. Is it evident in here that this is only a swap between the Catholic district school board and Upper Canada? Or are there other boards that play? Or are there other jurisdictions outside of this geography as well?
Through you, Chair, from both the ESIS data sets and the information we heard from principals and staff in the schools, it's clear that the majority of the student transfer actions between our board is with our coterminous English board. That's not to say there aren't students that are transferring between our French coterminous boards, but the majority of them are with the English coterminous.
Through you, Chair?
Go ahead, Trustee Swan.
Just a concern, do we accept students without the OCR being present, or OSR, Ontario Student Record?
Yes, we do.
So what if there is some suspension action? How would we pick that up?
The suspensions and so forth, there would be exchange of information between the boards, and that's something that actually what David and I will be talking with our coterminous board about. Rarely does that happen. However, there are occasions that we are familiar with where a student's OSR follows and we find out that just before they join us, they were suspended. That doesn't mean that we can't take them. We have to honor the suspension, but we do take them once their suspension is served. And that is not a large group. It's a small group.
I guess the secondary, Chair?
Yep, go ahead.
If there was an expulsion, then what would happen?
David, can you talk about that?
Superintendent Coombs?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, the first thing that a school does when they register a new student is request the OSR from the former school. And at that time, there would be a red flag saying that a student has been expelled, because if they've been expelled, they would not be at a day school, they would be at an alternative site in their board.
So it's safe to say that we are not, because the OSR is not being transferred quickly enough, accepting expelled students, is that correct?
The bells would ring loud and clear for us if we requested an OSR and the OSR did not travel quickly. I would say the knowledge in the communities, the vast majority of our principals in our rural, urban combined centers really understand the nature of the kids they're serving. And we have some sites where we serve together, our kids, and as we take a look at that, it could potentially happen. I have never seen it in this board ever happen.
Superintendent Coombs, anything to add?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to add, we have had students who have been expelled in our system have moved to other jurisdictions. And when they do so, what we do is contact the superintendent of Safe Schools in that board to inform them that they have this student coming into their jurisdiction, and other jurisdictions afford us the same procedure.
I find it hard to believe that these OSRs cannot be moved instantaneously. Is there a reason?
It's paper. It's confidential. It's FOIable.
No, it is. So you have an OSR, it's requested, you have a little bit of work as trustee, forgot your name. As my first vice has said, and you can't send an incomplete OSR? Yeah, I'm asking you, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, what schools will often do is the first thing they'll request is a transcript, because they'll need to know where they're going to place a student. And so oftentimes what will happen is the transcript will precede the OSR. Again, usually at that time there's a sharing of information, especially when there are students coming in who have been through a number of schools.
Okay. All right, now, so okay, go ahead, Trustee McMillan. Trustee McDonald. I give up. I can't read the name tags. They'll face me.
Quick comment or question, I guess, is so the report deals with the lagging indicator, right? We see what's happened in the past. When we discussed this in February, we were to receive information as to a plan to implement the recommendations that were provided back in February. And those were re-examine how we resource our schools. So I guess the letter contributes to that. Maybe that would be A and B. Request the Ministry of Education to re-examine how funding can support public school boards. Improve our communication with coterminous boards. Streamline school and system process relating to OSR tracking. And monitor student transfers into TR Léger. Is that covered in this document? Having only received it tonight, is it covered within here to specify what that plan is to meet those recommendations?
The plan is E47. That's the charter, and the charter was reviewed last week, and that's what we're planning, and that's what we're using. You're seeing the evidence of it tonight.
I guess my concern, though, is that the charter E47 is a comprehensive overview of circumstances and extent to which students enter UCDSB. And following the system-wide review, it doesn't talk about, I haven't seen anything yet anyway, about what the next step is, what's the plan of attack to be able to deal with those recommendations that we specified in February.
Director?
What I'm doing, Trustee McDonald, is actually taking the recommendations, responding to the recommendations as our plan of attack. And that is what we're doing with E47, safe as it wraps up. And if it has to move in a different way, that will be part of the planning process.
Well, I guess, would it be inappropriate for me, Mr. Chair, to ask that at the next meeting that we have, whether it's part of E47 or not, just a response as to what the plan is to deal with those 5 recommendations?
Well, I'm, yeah, that's the nature of this item, is to receive a plan, an implementation plan. So, we still need the plan, then I guess we should get that. My understanding is that you're also implementing at the same time?
Yes.
So we will.
The recommendations right now are the plan. So that's what that's where, and if you'd like me to list the May 30th meeting with the director and so forth, so that I can go to that infinite detail. That's can be done very quickly for the Board of Trustees.
Yeah, because that's what was asked for. The Committee of the Whole on February 12th asked to provide at a May 2014 meeting a plan to implement the 5 recommendations within this report. Trustee McCray?
Yeah, through you, Chair. So, just to understand a little bit more about this, out of the recommendations that the Upper Canada District School Board made under D, to streamline school and system processes relating to the OSR tracking, can the director give us some idea of what that might include?
What that will
What would the actions be to streamline school and system processes relating to the OSR? Because we've already had a mention, like, could those records be sent, through the internet or through email? And somebody said no, they couldn't. So maybe you could just explain that to us a little further.
If I might.
Okay.
I think that essentially that's what we're asking for, and obviously we've not done a good job, management council, to make sure that we arrive here with the information that the board asked for. So I take responsibility for that. But I think give us another give us till the next, if not the next meeting, the first meeting in June, to to respond to the motion that the board passed in 2012. So I'd ask that you have a motion to temporarily postpone this until the first meeting in June.
Want a motion for that?
Yeah. Trustee McDonald and Trustee McCray. So this will be your motion. Committee of the whole requests postpones. No, sorry. Let me say this again. Yeah, committee of the whole postpone the item, whatever this is, 60.04 until the June something meeting, whatever the first meeting is in June. Somebody know what that is? Fourth. Thank you. The June 4th meeting. The agenda item. Moved by Trustee McDonald and seconded by, so somebody seconded, Trustee McCray. Okay, let's go ahead and run this one.
In favor.
Trustee McAllister's in favor. Trustee McMillan's in favor. All right. Okay. So let's move to private session. A motion moving committee of the whole in the private session. Trustee McDonald and Trustee Carpenter. And we'll take 5 minutes to do that. Any more time on OPSPA?
Well, Mr. Chair, I have some time before the AGM that I can report to you some of the matters at the next meeting, if that's okay.
Okay, so we'll pull that item, if that, and if somebody objects, just say so. Report from private session we'll do. Yeah, so if we just eliminate that one, we have to do the ratification. Okay, so I have a motion to extend for 15 minutes, please. Trustee McMillan, Trustee McCray. So you got all kinds of fun, eh? Like tonight. McMillan and McCray. Okay, go ahead and remember, you have to go back in the public.
I'm in favor. I know I still got it. It's up.
Okay. All right, so we're just removing the one item for now.
I'm in favor. I just have to log back in.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. 803 we will remove. Okay, so I need a motion to remove, move back into regular. Did we do that? No. Okay, I guess we better do that one. Probably should have done that first. Trustee Karkner, Trustee Richards. Okay, Trustee McAllister.
Yep.
Yep. Trustee McMillan's in favor. Trustee Swan is in favor. All right, so report from private session at the Committee of the Whole meeting April 23rd, 2014. One personnel matter was discussed and no recommendations are being brought to the board. Committee of the whole meeting this evening, May 14th, Private session, one bargaining issue was discussed and no recommendations are being brought forward. Report from Committee of the Whole, public session, April 23rd, 2014. 4 items were discussed, no recommendations being brought forward. Move now to 802, which is ratification of Special Education Advisory Committee appointment. You're being asked to ratify the appointment of Lisa Raymond from Autism Ontario. She's a, do you want to add anything, or?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Petersma. Yes, she is a member of the Upper Canada chapter and lives in Williamsburg. Lisa has 3 children. 2 of them go to Seaway and 1 goes to Iroquois. And the letter of recommendation from Autism Ontario is attached to the agenda. Lisa attended SEAC last month as an observer, and is looking forward to, would like to join our SEAC if it's approved, her appointment's approved.
Okay. So moved by Trustee McAllister, seconded by Trustee Richards. That the Upper Canada District School Board ratify the appointment of Association Representative Lisa Raymond, Autism Ontario, Upper Canada, as a Special Education Advisory Committee SEAC member. Go ahead and call the question. Already did.
Mm-hmm. Through you, Chair?
Yep, go ahead.
The name coming up on my screen says Lisa, Vreman.
Yep.
Is there an issue there? Or is that an alternate name?
That's her name, Lisa Raymond.
That's correct. Her name is Lisa Brayman, coming up.
Okay, I thought you said Raymond.
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any comments, Director? I have none, so.
Chair, may I have?
Yep.
Just mention the nomination, trustee innovation award, deadline's coming up real quick.
When is it?
The end of the month. So
Okay.
if you have a council meeting, get it out to your council meetings or your principals as a reminder, please.
Okay. And adjournment, Trustee McMillan, seconded by Trustee Garrow. Everybody's in favor?